Hello, one and all, and welcome to another episode of Baggers Chat. My name is Mitch Pattinson, and as always, we're joined by Ethan Daffy. And tonight, we could potentially be doing our last preview show of the year. And it is, of course, our round 24 clash. Carlton v St Kilda, Sunday, 25th of August, 3:20, Marvel Stadium. And it is, of course, our members' thank you round. But, Daff, first things first, how are you? And give me your initial thoughts ahead of this. Pretty much a do or die clash, really, because if we lose, we still could make the finals. It really is down to the game after that. But your initial thoughts, and also touch on the members' thank you round if you do have any information on that. But what's your thoughts, mate?
No, I'm looking forward to it. It's funny, people always say, sometimes in the footy or sport landscape, just life, nothing is as good as it seems, nothing is as bad as it seems. And, a week is a long, long time in footy. And, I think if we lost that game on the weekend, I'd love to see the thoughts going into this game because they've just completely flipped. And that's fine because, that's just how you are as a sports fan. But there's something. I think a few weeks ago, I knew there was going to be something on the line in this game. I remember when the first fixture came out, I said something in this game. When I saw round 24 against the Saints, I said something will be on the line, whether it's a top 2, top 4, top 8, something in this game. Like, there was going to be something on the line in this game. And obviously there is something on the line in this game with the Saints, who are always an interesting kind of side to come up against. And it's that's another situation we've been in before. You look at 2022. It's a very, very similar situation, but it's do or die, like you said, and obviously the member thank you round. So obviously we're going to be wearing a different Guernsey, but yeah, I'm up and about, Patto. There's something about this week. I think it's going to be rocking on Sunday afternoon. I think it's going to be a good Marvel Stadium crowd. It looks like it'll be sold out. So our home game. Let's just make it our own. Get these guys into finals.
Yeah, exactly right. Are you able to go, mate, or have you potentially gotten work off?
Well, I was going to work at the game, but I'm that much of a nuff ball. I took work off and I'm still attending. So, yeah, I will be in attendance.
Yeah, I'm the exact same. I was meant to be working there as well, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but I feel like a week ago I'm like, I'm working. No matter what, I'm working. But I'm like, you know what? I'd
Yep.
rather me working on the game and watching in stress. I'd rather be at the game with no stress about work
Yep.
and actually being able to watch the game.
Yes.
Whether it is enjoyment or stress, whatever it is, I would like to try and do that without working. And I'm sure you would be in the exact same boat. But Dave, we're going to move straight into the injury list, and of course, it's been a conversation the past probably 6 weeks that we've really had to touch on some key players that have been out of the side for a number of weeks, and now there's a few positive injuries, especially after the Hawthorn game, with a lot of injuries coming out of that. And thankfully, on the weekend there was potential to be some players that were going to miss
Yep.
through injuries, whether it's Zach Williams, but also Corey Dern as well, is another conversation. But also from, as I said, the week before with Hawthorn, there's a lot of players there that potentially could miss a lot of games, but now it's looking a little bit more likely. So I'm going to throw straight to you, Duffy Boy, with the injury update. What have you got?
Yeah, it's I feel like it's a lot of positivity this week on the injury front. I don't think there's injuries are far from positive, but it's looking kind of on the brighter side in terms of the tests. So the main news is we've got about 5 or 6 players with tests. Oh no, it's probably 6 and maybe 7 with Williams. I think Williams will be okay. He's not really on the list or anything, so I think he's all good. But I'll just go through the names. Obviously, Sardi looks like he's probably set to go this weekend, which is fantastic. Marchbank's cleared of that concussion, which looked like it was kind of lingering around for the last few weeks. So that's a positive sign for him personally. Obviously, Charlie Curno's a test, which is another interesting thing to see if he's selected this week. Corey Durden, like you said, I think we all probably thought. I did think he was going to be. I was little bit optimistic. I think it was a popped shoulder rather than like a collarbone. So obviously he's a test this week. I doubt he plays. I don't know. It'd just be interesting to see if he's 100%, 100%, because it's a do or die. And obviously McGovern, there's reports that he's probably not going to play this week, but he is a test with his hamstring. Do you risk him? Do you not? And obviously Jack Martin and Harry are 1 to 2. Harry was the one. I think he'll be back for the first week of finals if clear word if we play finals. Obviously, Jack Martin's another conversation of itself. Does he play? I don't know. Who knows? He's got the ability, so I wouldn't count him out to not be selected come finals time. But based on our kind of views the last couple of weeks on him, I just don't think we can trust him to play out a full 120 minutes of game time. But Boyd's 2 to 5. It's going to be, it's an interesting one, that one. I don't think he'll be coming back anytime soon. TDK is the one. I think he's the key if we want to impact come September. So he's 2 to 3. This is this week, 1 week, and the week off. So maybe he's back for the first week. Gee, that'd be a massive addition to the team if he's in. I think we're probably a 25, 30% better side when he's in the team. So and obviously Chera is to be, confirmed in terms of his kind of length on the sidelines. But after all that, Patto, what are your thoughts on, obviously the numerous tests and the other time frames with these other guys?
Yeah, the one that I'm looking at, and I think I said it last episode as well. Last preview episode, and Jordan
Yeah.
Boyd. It's an
Yeah.
unusual timeline. Like the week before it said 3 to 6, and now it says 2 to 5. Like you
Yeah, I
probably
guess.
expect it to be 3 to 6, and then the week after maybe be 2 to 3 or 3 to 4, but
Yeah.
still 2 to 5.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit unusual to me. And then obviously like it is the adductor injury, so I kind of look at that be.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why, because it's kind of uncertain, and that's why they give the large period of time frame with obviously the 2 to 5, because as I said, you never really see that with the 2 to 5
No.
sort of injury timeline. But yeah, oh God, those tests are head-ins, aren't they? Especially McGovern as well. Obviously McGovern played last week, but let's just hope that he is all good to go. But I guess I'll throw it back to you. And the question is, because you obviously mentioned about Corey Dern and you're unsure about whether he'll play this week and whether that is him as a test or whether that is like if he actually does become available. But also Mitch McGovern with
Yeah.
we're willing to take that risk. But I guess the question to you is, what's the reason why you wouldn't play Corey? Because you were a little bit unsure about playing Corey Durden, and if he is available, I'm not sure if you would play him. I'm not sure. But what's the reason with Corey Durden potentially you're not too keen about playing him, but also Mitch McGovern, you obviously would love him to play, but do you
Yeah.
take that risk with Mitch McGovern in the potentially our last game of the season?
Yeah, it's just interesting questions. Firstly on Dirds, I just don't. He looked out of sorts enough to miss the next week. That's just my thinking. Especially when we've got enough guys already in the team. It's in terms of smalls. Obviously, you got Motlop. Always was superb on the weekend. And you got other guys running through there. Obviously, Kennedy played a role. See, we're not lacking forwards. We're not lacking forwards. So I think you almost just give him the week off. Especially with Charlie coming in, he's a pretty handy addition to the forward line. So, yeah, just in terms of Dirds, I'm not saying it's anything. We both said he was superb while he was on the ground on the weekend. I just think maybe just give him the week, get him right, and hopefully he can push for selection. Come finals time, if we do play in the finals, I like to make sure that's if we do. And the next question was McGovern. Your next question was McGovern, and it is an interesting situation because I think he won't play. I just don't think he will play. I've got him. I haven't got him in my outs, but I have got an alternative if he is out and someone comes in for him. But yeah, it's obviously a few tweets today that looks like he will not play. Do you take the risk? I don't think so. If he's not, 100%, I think we can cover it. So he's a fucking crucial player. But do we want to impact come finals time, or do we want to play it safe and play him this week, and he hurts himself in a round 24 game, we win by 5 goals. Where if he didn't play, we might have still won. So, yeah, it's an interesting read. I want to get a read on how injured he is, or what's the go there, because he didn't injure it in the game. Well, he must have injured it in the game, but it wasn't major. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm hearing it was quite late in the game.
Yeah. Okay.
Like even on the last 6 or 7 minutes, I'm hearing. And he obviously was able to play the rest of the game out, but then it got to a point where I don't know if he ended up coming off the ground. Um, but I know as soon as the game was done, that he let the coaches know. So
Yeah.
that was quite of a like that is a positive for mine, because if he's not coming off the ground, and I don't know that for sure, but I know that their word wasn't out of, like, I know that he did not say anything to the coaching staff until after the game. So that's a positive on that note. But yeah, that's just I am nervous about it because he's so crucial. But I guess I'll ask more about, I guess, who we replace McGovern if he is fit in the ins and outs. But just to stick on the injury list right now, and I'll just ask a question. Now, I know that we touched on it a little bit in the review last episode, of who would be the players that you would risk. But I guess the two players right here, right now, and obviously Harry Mackay will come back into the side when he is available, but just the two players that I have in my mind right now, and it's Jack Martin 1 to 2 weeks. He won't play this week if he is, even if he turns around and there's a miraculous comeback for Jack Martin to potentially play this week, he won't play this week.
No.
Also, Adam Chera, to be continued. And if that turns into a test come finals time, the question is to you, Jack Martin and Adam Chera. Jack Martin might not even be on the injury list because he might be available, ready to go. And I know that I'm kind of asking the same thing in the review episode, but now we actually see the timeline heading into the last round this season. If we do make finals, and once again, you love to say it, if, it's a massive if, Adam Chera and Jack Martin, I'll start off with Jack Martin. Would you play him week 1 of finals if he is fit and ready to go?
I don't know. I think once again it's situation based, because if you got McGovern out, that's going to throw the whole Kemp role. I know he was fantastic on the weekend, but the mindset will be: do we bring in a Marchbank who hasn't played, or do we go Kempy back, keep a Moyer in the side? So it's a similar situation when you come finals time. Who's fit? Who's on the park? Who's in form? Who's out of form? It's I can't say yes or no, but I think if we have a similar kind of team that we have now going into the first week, I don't think they're going to come straight back in. But they are quality players, and I wouldn't be against it. I'll just be a little bit on the cautious side that the in-game, it's more about in-game. It's not about how we can replace them if they get injured in the game. It's actually in the game, how it can cost us in-game. If if Chera does his hammy by half time, we're playing Brisbane up at the Gabba, or Hawks at the G in a final. It could cost you. And it's the same with Jack Martin. So I think it's more of that in-game risk rather than the next few games. Because in a final, you're willing to risk players because they're so big, but it's almost the risk you don't want to take, because it's actually going to impact you for that game, not just the games after.
Mm-hmm.
The actual game. If they miss, if they don't play more than 75% of the game, it can cost you rotations wise. And look at the Hawthorn game. We lose by 74 points because we don't have anyone on the bench. We had 14 rotations in the second half. So I know we were very critical of that performance, but fuck me, like 14 rotations. That's like old style AFL when you used to not even do substitutions, really.
Well, that's the question that I guess I'm trying to get to, is you kind of look at a Chera and a Martin, and that's why I kind of look at the injury list and I'm like, Adam Sard, hamstring. And the same conversation, and I think we're both in the exact same minds of Sard comes straight back in if he is ready to go. But that's a conversation also as to, do you see it more as Adam Chera, you can't risk Adam Chera because of the potential injury? Or do you see you can't risk Adam Chera because of the way that the midfield's going right now without him? Because as you say, and we don't want to shit on him, but it was the exact same last year there were certain players that were in the side that are usually absolute locks, but they just don't suit the structure right now on the 20th of like the 20th of August 2024. Just
Yeah.
right now to this day. Sorry, mate, you don't suit the structure right now. It's unlucky. Move on to next year, and we'll find a different role for you to make sure that you're in this best 22. But I guess the question is, because it seems like you're more going down the side of like Adam Cherry and Jack Martin aren't those players that you want to risk, and Adam Sard and Harry Mackay and Charlie Kerner, who are all coming off injuries, are players that you do want to risk.
Yeah, I think with Sard, I know he's had issues this year, but I don't think there've been issues like Chera and Martin. They've barely run out games, both of them, this year. So that's the way I look at it. Obviously, Charlie's had that ankle issue and Harry's obviously had the quad, but they're more minor things. And history-wise, those guys have backed it up each and every week. So that's where I get my kind of confidence. And, for me, it's with those Martin and Chera, you get to a final series, you need 29 blokes. You need a squad in finals. So I'm not going to say they're not going to play. I'm never going to rule that out. There might be a semi-final and they go, fuck, we're playing, I don't know, Bulldogs or Hawthorn or Geelong, and you go, fuck, we can really exploit them in the middle of the ground. Let's get some more mids in the side, and Chera comes into the side. So it's situation-based for me. I just don't think he just comes straight back in. But it depends. If you play someone first week and go, Chera is good against that side, we want to use Kennedy at half forward more against this side, maybe. I don't know. It's just the whole, people go, oh, it's start of the year. We always go, oh, lock for 22. There's no best 22. Doesn't exist. Does not exist. Because look at our team this year. I know it was a lot of based on injury, but it's never teams come in and out. Look at Sydney. like the last few weeks, they had a clear cut 22 probably for the first 15 weeks, which resulted in great form because they had continuity and they kept playing these same blokes in and out. And look, you go, Papley's out, and they started tinkering, and they started bringing in Luke Parker and Mills, and they started to drop games. Not because of those blokes, it's just because it's the change of the normal thing they're used to. And I think we did bugger it up when we brought Chera and Cottrell in that week. I don't know what week it was, but we brought both of them in and we sacrificed the roles of guys like Kennedy and dropped George Hewitt. So it's you just got to be careful with that. And I think that was a very, very bad momentum killing move.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. You hit the nail on the head. But I guess just another conversation is Mitch McGovern as well, because he's got that hamstring injury. He's had the history, but it's once again, I think we're both on the same page once again of he's a player that you almost have to risk. It's funny, isn't it? Because Chera, when he was kind of fit and ready to go, we kind of, I assume when he was available, we probably would have both brought him in the ins and outs. So we probably both would have done the exact same thing that the coaching staff did. But it's just funny looking back in hindsight of like, we probably shouldn't have made that decision, but it probably was a ballsy decision at the time. And yes, it may have gone the wrong way. We may have said in 3 or 4 weeks' time after when Adam Chera was in the VFL, fuck, it would have been great to have Adam Chera right now. But also, like we mentioned it so many times, if you're in a big final, and once again, if you're in a big final, if we made the final series this year, but if you're in a big final, and I think you may have mentioned it last episode of if we do play Jack Martin in that first quarter, not even as a sub, first quarter, 8 minutes into the first quarter, hamstring, out. Ashton Moyer comes on as a sub. Really? And then we run out of limits, and then we lose an elimination final, and then we're out of season 2024 because we played this player who didn't last more than 10 minutes on the field. So it's small things like that that I think we really need to start to look at, because you probably look at like Mitch McGovern, maybe you don't, like, yes, he might be fit to play this week. Maybe you don't play him because even if he is fit to play, I hate to say it, but you got Marchbank there as well, who's coming off a concussion. Do you bring him in? But also, he's not trustworthy either.
No.
But also, you look at it and you're like, oh, well, Brody Kemp could almost go back, but also he just kicked 4 fucking goals as well.
Yeah, it's. But I think you almost got to. It's I know he was fantastic last week, but you've got to. Once again, it's situation based. He kicked 4 against the Eagles, so he's not all sunshine and rainbows because he had one good week. He's fantastic, and I'd love him to play forward this week. But if need be, I've got this on my notes. If need be, and Gov isn't playing, and Marchie isn't in for some sort of reason, I think you're gonna have to put Kemp back. And that's just, I know people go, oh, what's he doing back? What's he doing? You got Charlie Curnow coming into the side. And you can
Exactly.
keep a guy like a Moore at half forward, or even, you can keep a Kennedy at forward too. We've got guys who can do that. So you just got to not be, we're just not going to be, just set in stone. Oh, Brody Kemp can take us to the flag at full forward. That's just sometimes not the reality. If the team selection isn't, he's played down back all year.
Mhm.
So maybe if Dove doesn't play, I'd probably to be honest, I'd probably trust Kemp down back more than Marchbank right now in a do or die game. Let's be real.
Yeah, no, exactly right. And then especially with Lewis Young back as that
Yeah.
second defender,
Yeah.
I think that's when I kind of look at it and be like, yeah, I probably would feel comfortable if Brody Kemp does go back. But I guess we'll throw straight into the ins and outs stuff because I think we're both quite intrigued as to how we're kind of going with the ins and outs. And once again, to the viewers, we don't let each other know what our ins and outs are. We purely do it raw on the episode, and because we kind of both want to react without knowing, and then we kind of have a speak about it. But Daff, your ins and outs and your sub massive this week. And once again, I hate to say it, but it could be our last ins and outs for the season. But your ins and outs and your sub, what have you got?
Yeah, I wish we were in a similar situation to last year where we could just, tank the last game of the year and just sit back and let Charlie lock up the Coleman again. But we're not in that situation. And sometimes that situation provides an opportunity for you to get a bit of a kick up the arse. So, yeah, this selection, it's going to be like whoever you select, I really don't know. This is going to be the fight. It's so hard. It is so hard to get a read on how they're looking. Do they want more forwards coming in? Do they want more, how are they going to do that? Like, are we going to drop more forwards and then bring in a defender and a forward? It's it's hard. And I'm not even probably set in stone with this selection. I said that last week as well, but I actually find it really hard because we just don't know where they're going and what their priorities are. So, if you're listening and you go, fuck, what's Daff talking about here? What are we going in and out or, whatever. It's just my thinking now and, it'll change subject to McGovern and whoever else might be out of the side due to form maybe. But my outs this week, it's my first out. I kind of sneak peeked this one before and it's going to be Corey Durden just injured. It's not a drop, injured. For me, I think there's an amount of smalls you can have in the side, especially on a drier deck. I just felt last week was a very windy game, wasn't it? It was expected, like it was raining at the end of the game, so we did play small ball. It was very small ball. So obviously the name I'm bringing in later will sort out these outs. But my last out, and I hate to fucking do it. I hate to do it. I hate to do it. And like I said, I'd be more than fucking happy if he lines up on the weekend at half forward and kicks a bag. It's nothing to do with him personally, but I'm dropping Ashton Moyer. He's going to be out of this side. He was the sub on the weekend. He was a sub on the weekend. You got to find a way to get someone into this side, and he's out. He's out of my side. Like I said, has the ability to play in this side this week, and I wouldn't be against you having him in the side either. But he just makes way for me. He was the sub, and the sub I currently have, I think, will work out better in a game this weekend. My ins, I've got two ins. Adam Sard is into the side. And this is because I've got Chincotta playing a role this weekend, and I think it's a role the Cats, not sure what they were doing on the weekend, didn't play the role on Jack Sinclair, who tore him a new one in the second half of half back. So Adam Sard is in. Obviously, Chincotta plays a role, kind of that half forward, where he's that defensive role that we've seen in the past. My next in is Charlie Curnow. He's in the side. Just hopefully this break just gives him a bit of a rocket. Just gives him a bit of a rocket. And he just goes back to that really good form. Because I know he's kicked his goals and we all go, oh, everyone's too harsh on him. But if we're going to win the premiership, he needs to be firing. he needs to be firing. And he didn't fire at the back end of last year, let's be real. So Charlie is in for me. My substitute, he was in the best 22. I had 6 names, I reckon, who could be the sub, who could be dropped out of the side. I had 3 lineups today I looked at, being the nuffy myself, and Moya was in 2 of them, and he's not in the lineup. I've got my finalised lineup, and I wouldn't be against it, like I said with Moya. But my sub is Jackson Binns. He's going to be the sub. He can play numerous roles. He can play wing. He can play half forward, and we can shift blokes as well. I think people forget that as well. Like they go, oh, the sub, but he can only play forward. But it's like, well, if you have Chincotta tagging at half forward, or you have, Kennedy playing forward, you can shift. We've got guys who can shift, which is a good ability to have in a team. Because I feel like a lot of clubs in the league have guys who their position is set in stone and they can't really play well in another role. So Jackson Binns is my substitute in this game.
Yeah, wow.
Yep.
I've got a completely different
Yep.
ins and outs, and it's just a different aspect. But I guess the question is, because when we were doing the test, and obviously with Corey Durden, he's classified as a test. So we have no idea if he's going to be missing. He might potentially be injured, but he also might be available. So I guess with you having him as an out, like that 100% like injured, because I just think if he's a test, he's kind of 50-50, and I thought we were probably going to go the side of if he's a test, it's either you drop him or you play him, or I thought we were probably going to go down the side of like probably not if he's a test, he's classified as injured, because we don't know. So
I just don't think he's in our best side.
So you're dropping him?
Yeah, if he's fit, he's not playing.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. And not saying he was bad on the weekend, but has he showed form consistently? No, I'm not having a go at him. But, and I know we talk about Motlop and blah, 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 and he was in my outs at one point today. I've had about 700 different lineups, and he was one of them. But I just feel like it's got to come a time where he's going to kick a, you know what I mean? Like he's just that guy who can have 9 touches and win you the game. So, and Dirds was very good because he was impacting high up the ground, and we brought Charlie in. So it's a tough selection, but I'd love to know what you've got to say.
Yeah, well, it's very, very interesting. But I guess I'll start off with my outs, and I have 3 outs that aren't even like you don't. Completely
Okay.
different. And that's probably the first time this year, because we're usually on the same page about it. And that's just why I just think it's quite funny. But my first out, Jack Carroll.
Yeah.
He will be my first out. Next out, fucking so stiff. Sorry to swear, but so stiff. Cooper Lord.
Oh,
he's missing as well. So very, very stiff. Last one, player that you've said, and the reason why I'm dropping him, Jesse Motlop.
Yep.
He's had a few weeks.
Yep.
Still can't execute. Yes, he hit a goal on the weekend in a game that you probably should be dominating as a small forward. And I'm not shitting on Jesse Motlop at all, but I'm sorry, I'm keeping Corey Durden in the side if he's fit to play. Because he provided more than Jesse Motlop did. And I think his presence I really liked. I like that, and just the hunt for the footy, and Jesse Motlop, of course, has that. And I can't wait anymore. I can't wait anymore. No. Oh, potentially. No, I saw enough from Corey Durden in a half of footy. Sorry, Motlop, you're being dropped, and he might play. Michael Voss might be looking at this episode on Baggers Chat Daf Boy and be like, "This Patto guy can fuck off. He has no idea." But they're my 3 outs, and Corey Durden is playing for mine if he is fit to go. But of course, if Durden is injured, I think out of those 3, I think Jesse Motlop does stay in, because you need to have that other small forward. But yeah, I mean, I think if Corey Durden is fit to play, Jesse Motlop is omitted. So they're 3 omissions, pretty stiff. Ins, Ashton Moyer being upgraded. So he's in the side for mine. Charlie Curnow, pretty obvious. And Adam Sard also is my other in. But my sub, and I didn't want to change it because you said a point that I love. And I was actually about to change it, but I'm like, you know what? No, I'm going to keep it with what I have. And I'm a little bit, it's a little bit controversial now, but I guess it's Alex Chincotta. as a sub. And I really do love what you said about, I think he has to go to Jack Sinclair.
Yes.
So I
Yep.
really do like that. But I
Mm.
guess once again, he played very well against the Cats, but I don't think he's that dominance player that you can. There's a few players in this league that you cannot let them have their dominance, like a Nick Dacos,
Yeah.
Zach Butters, Marcus Bontempelli as well. They're probably the players that you probably can't let them off a leash, or else they will actually make their side a hell of a lot better. Jack Sinclair can get his touches, of course, and
Yeah.
I rate Sinclair as high as anybody in this comp. I think he's great off the half back when he also goes into the midfield. But I think you can let him off a leash for maybe a half. And if it gets to a point where he is dominating, and I don't think he will, maybe you then bring on Chincotta. But then that's not another conversation as to if we're down by 40 points and Jack Sinclair has 30 touches at half time,
Yeah.
it might be too late to put on Chincotta. But
Yeah.
it's just another conversation. But I just don't think Sinclair is one of those players that I would tag with Chincotta. And I don't think Chincotta has to tag this week.
No.
And I think him as a sub, he's really good as a halfbacker. He can also play a roll up forward. He can also be a tagging role. But I guess those ins and outs in the sub, Daffy Boy, what's your thoughts on that? Because I guess we need to have a talk about it because they're completely different. So what's your thoughts overall?
Yeah, it's interesting. I like the ins and outs, so I'm not against them. I just think I've got in the notes here. Obviously, for me, Moya was stiff. Um, I just think I think Carroll's form this year, and we've spoken about it. I think it's been weird that he's been out, in and out so much.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't really like it because I think he's had a pretty consistent year when he's in. So that's why I've kept him in the side. And I'm not against him dropping him. But I just feel like he's when he had these chance to have a few weeks in, he was fantastic. And then he obviously had to come out of the side due to other players coming in, but he just hasn't had 2 weeks in a row in the side. And I think, obviously Cooper Lord is another one. I just think his intent for the footy was fantastic. So and that him and Carroll, both of them, I think they can hold their heads high with how they played on the weekend. And I think that's how our identity kind of began in 2022, where we had, we don't have to have guys having 30 every fucking week. George Hewitt, Cripps, Walsh, and then we rolling other guys through there, and that was Cooper Law, and you're rolling, like you said in the review, like you had so many centre bounce attendances, and you got Carroll in there who he's a bit different sometimes, which I like in the side. So, and I just like the way they went about it, and they deserve another crack. That's just my thinking, but I do like your thinking as well.
That's just why I'm just thinking. I just don't think there was really any other option this last week, and I just think you had to play Jack Hurry. And my thinking was with Charlie Curnow coming back in, I still have Brody Kemp playing as a forward with Curnow coming in. So
Yeah.
Matt Kennedy gets moved from the forward line into the midfield, and that kind of covers that Cooper Lord, Jack Carroll role. And Elijah Hollins needs to play more on the ball as well. We've missed that. We've missed that a little bit. And I think he can kind of play anywhere, and that's why he's such a good footballer. But even last week when he was playing on the halfback flank, that was as that midfield that was playing behind the ball, as I explained in the review. But I think you need to give him a little bit more time in the midfield as well. So that there's just a few things that it's so stiff because I completely agree. I think Cooper Lord especially, he's hunt for the footy, and when he was on the ball in those set and bounce attendances, he looked at home. He didn't get lost out there. So I think he was really solid. But once again, it could be our do or die game this week. And you could also see the other side of it of like you don't want to make too many changes after you just smash the West Coast Eagles. But once again, you beat West Coast. So and there was a hell of a lot of media going towards how poor they were. So I'm just seeing it more as like, I don't want to make too many changes, even though I've made 3. But I think Curnow, Sard, absolute locks. Kemp, I really liked him as a forward. Really liked him as a forward. And another note that I've got is if McGovern isn't fit, Marchbank comes in for mine. Because you said it as well. He's played against West Coast and he kicked 4 goals in 1 game. So
Yeah.
I feel like I'm kind of being a little bit too reactive right now. But once again, I've been saying it almost all year. I think him as a defender, he's too attacking and he plays too much as a intercepting
Yeah.
defender. And when I don't think he is in that role, because McGovern's covering that role. And when
Mm,
he's in that back line, and maybe it might be different with Lewis Young and Wittering down there. It
yeah.
might be completely different because he's not that second defender. But I just think that having that, I always like having 2 keys down there. And another key who isn't there is Harry Mackay.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Brody Kemp needs to be that other key forward down there, and Matt Keeney can't be that other key down there. Of course he can,
Mm.
but the reasons why I've made these changes is because Matt Keeney gets a little bit more midfield time. So after that, what's your kind of thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's if McGovern isn't playing, I'd like to see Kemp go back. And then well, if my thinking is with my selection, if we're keeping the mids in, if we're keeping Carroll and Cooper Lord in the side, then if you've got Gov coming out, you put Kemp down back, you might keep Moyer in the side, but then you put a bit more time for you keep Matt Kennedy in that forward role, which there's something about it which I like. I just whacked my laptop. I do like Kennedy in that pure midfield role, but I just don't know if he's ever going to have a full game in the middle. I just don't think he's ever that player. I just think he just impacts the head of the ball really well. So he's a good hit up player. He kicks his goals. So um, it's the McGovern thing is just interesting. I think he won't play. That's just my thinking, but I'll just keep that out of my selection for now because it's not a bit too hard.
But yeah, like another thing also, like when I look at the key backs as well, that's another thing that I was about to say. Do you think we will be playing too small if we send Kemp back, McGovern if he is out, and Ashton Moyer? He's not a tall. He's not a tall player. He's more of that Jack Martin to even a stretch. I think Jack Martin is a little bit taller. I will check the stats soon after I say this, but I guess they have like obviously Battle and then also Dougal Howard and Callum Wilkie as well down there. Probably would expect Howard to go to potentially a Kerno, if not maybe a Wilkie because Mackay's not playing. I think Wilkie probably might go to Kerno, but that's a matchup that Wilkie probably doesn't really want. So I think Dougal Howard's probably more suited for that matchup. But I think Wilkie can be that interceptor. But once again, if Kemp's down there, you've got the 3 talls down there. Are we playing too small? Because we're not playing at Optus Stadium when it's windy and wet. We're playing at Marvel Stadium when it's dry as a I don't even know what I was about to say. But so what's your thoughts on that in terms of like the Josh Battle, Dougal Howard, and Callum Wilkie all down there as the keys, and we don't really have any other option other than Charlie Curnow coming in to kind of fill that void as the key forward. Is there anyone else that you can see as that key forward down there?
I think it hurt us in that game against Port Adelaide when you look at it. You go, it was only Curnow down there. But I think the way we were playing was that bombing type. So Um, you look at Kemp, he's not that massive, is he? He's 192. So,
Oh,
yeah, I guess it's probably he's only 4 centimeters taller than Ashton Moyer, but
really? Wow. Yep.
yeah. So I think I'd like him up forward. He's more that kind of general forward, just below that kind of key size. So. You have Charlie as the key, and then you have Kemp too, and then you roll Kennedy through there, you roll whoever through there. So, I think we'll be okay, depending on Mr. McGovern.
Yeah, no, well, I didn't. I mean, I knew that Kemp was around that size, but I didn't know that Moyer is that tall. So maybe,
Yeah.
as you said, so when you said that potentially you could bring in Moyer if you send Kemp back, is that because you knew that Moyer could be that key option
Yeah.
down there?
Yeah, he can play well. He can play tall and small. That was always his draft pro. I remember looking at his draft profile when we were doing the draft preview, and he can play as a tall and a small. So he's got the leap, and he's actually shown that on the weekend. Obviously, I haven't picked him in the side, but if he does come into the side, he can play on the ground. It might cause some trouble for guys because I feel like Dougal Howard's one of those players where he can't really move much, can he? He's not the most mobile player. I think Wilkie's a guy who doesn't lose a one-on-one, and it doesn't matter who he's playing on. On the weekend, he was switching from Cameron to Neil. And then he was sometimes at one point he was on Ollie Henry. Like he was just
Yeah.
beating everyone. So he's versatile, and he'll probably have to take Charlie. But you got to have the best defender or the best forward, I think, if they want to win the game. But yeah, Moya could be definitely an option. And the players are tall, same as Kemp. It's playing as a key forward. He's not necessarily a key forward. But yeah, it'd be good to see either of them up there.
Yeah, because I think like if Harry Mackay was available, I would assume that Wilkie would probably go straight to Mackay, and then Howard would probably go straight to Curnow. So I think it just suits him a little bit better. And I don't know if because Mackay isn't playing or he isn't expected to play, I don't know. But if potentially they might change completely if Wilkie goes to the best key forward. But what does that mean as to exactly what you said? Dougal Howard might be a little bit more found out because he's more of that lockdown.
Yeah.
Wilkie likes to intercept when he can. He can definitely lock down. That's why he's one of the best.
Best of the league, yeah.
He's probably should be all Australian, if not very, very close, but maybe behind Jacob Wietering, mate. But but I guess like the Dougal Howard and the Wilkie, and also Josh Battle is down there as well. So I don't think he's really that player that can really match up with Charlie Curnow. But hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me in the bum, Daffy boy. But let's now move on to our opposition watch. And for the people who don't know what this is, we go through the backline, midfield, and forward for the St Kilda Saints this week, and we touch on one player from each line and explain why they're a bit of a threat come Sunday afternoon, 3:20 for potentially our last. Well, it will be our last home and away clash for the season, but potentially our last clash of the season. But Daff, your backline opposition watch for the Saints, I've got a feeling that we might have the same one here, but who have you got?
Yeah, it's a interesting one. I was there on the weekend for the Cats Saints game, so I was actually watching them pretty closely just to see who was impacting. Obviously, with us playing them the next week, and thinking this week was going to be a do or die clash, whether we lost on Sunday to the Eagles or not. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. I've got Wanganeen Miller off that half back, and we talk about Sinclair, and I thought Sinclair was phenomenal last week, and he's killed us in the past too. I think might have been the first game last year. He did kill us, and maybe that one where we couldn't kick straight to save our lives in the respects game in 2022. But yeah, Wanganeen Miller, geez, a good player. Geez, a good player. I do smell a return to South Australia within 4 years, but he's a very, very handy player, and you just got to. It's the pressure up forward. If we maintain that pressure we had on the weekend, I think we can minimise guys like that impact. But if you give them space to go forward of the ball to use he's probably one of their best kicks. If we let him just have that extra few meters, they will torch us. So we've just got to have, whether it's, if it's Chincotta playing a role, if it's, he was just really good defensively last week. If you got Moya in there, and I want to see a bit more from Charlie as well, throwing his body around, watching how his teammates did it last week and going, fuck, mate, I need to buy into this. I need to buy into this pressure stuff. So I know that's not his role necessarily, but if everyone's putting in, guys like Wanganeen Malira aren't just going to get away with murder and just, roam around our forward line and just get the ball for fun.
Well said. I guess I'm kind of looking at that back line, and I mean, I obviously have watched a lot of Saints games this season, and the way that I see it is they are they do lack a little bit in actually defending. I think their only real defender who can actually defend consistently at a really high level is Cal Wilkie. He's probably the only player, because Howard to a stretch as well, but Josh Battle likes to attack. Wayne Miller loves to attack. Sinclair as well. Liam Stocker, who is obviously a former Carlton player.
He was tagging Stewart last week in the middle.
Yeah. So I mean, that's also another conversation. That's when we will touch on the midfield and kind of ask about potentially if he could tag. Let's hope he does, Daffy boy. But another player also down there is Jimmy Webster, the absolute sniper to Guy Simpkin earlier on in the season, Daff. But who knows? Let's see. Let's hope if Matt Owies can get it a little bit. But Yeah, my opposition watch, it might be a little bit of a, I guess, a funny one because he's played a hell of a lot of midfield this year, but I think his best spot on the ground, especially with Zach Jones coming back into the midfield, that's another conversation as to. I'm quite glad that he's playing in the midfield that week just quietly. And also another player, P Dow. Don't know who that is.
I know who that is.
Sorry, Paddy Dow. Not sure who that is, Daffy Boy. But I guess you probably look at that defense, and I guess it's Jack Sinclair is obviously my opposition watch. And he's the player that I think he plays a lot. I think the way that he plays is when he's getting tags in the back line, he moves into the midfield. So I don't think he's necessarily, I don't think he's required as a midfielder, but
No.
it's a great role to have, and it's a great player to have. Having
Yeah.
can pretty much play anywhere. So Jack Sinclair will be my opposition watch for the back line. But Daff, I guess we'll move straight into the midfield. There's a few options there, whether you can also name a Jack Steele as well. They've got a few Jacks in the side. But I guess your opposition watch for the midfield, there are a few options there, and maybe you have a different player who necessarily isn't playing in the midfield, but could be a big threat in that midfield come Sunday. Who have you got?
He was best on for the Saints on the weekend. It's his first season on the wing, and he was phenomenal. He was phenomenal, and it's Darcy Wilson. He was absolutely superb on the weekend. He kicked some rippers, and he almost kicked one from the boundary that hit the back of the post, which I thought was a goal. But it was just a really, really strong performance from him, and he was just kicking clutch goals. So that's when you know a player's got that extra gear in him, that extra seal. It's only his first year, so he's got plenty of growth left in his game. But yeah, he's one to watch. And I look at Ollie Hollands, who's been in good form I think the last month or so. I think he's put together some games. Even in our losses, I thought maybe not the Hawthorn game. It was a pretty hard game to play in, that game, to be standing out in when we're getting towed. But yeah, he stood up in games, in other games, and we were kind of pointing for him to be dropped at some points of the season, but he had a ripper on the weekend. I know it was West Coast, but he's still going to do it, like we say. But it'll be an interesting matchup, them two. You've also got Akers as well, so just got to keep him. Don't let a first year player impact the game as much as he did last week, because Geelong, I don't know what they were doing in that second half. They had a whole quarter where they were shocking in the third, but they were still in the game at 3/4 time, and they didn't make any adjustments. They didn't make any adjustments in the middle of the ground, where like the source right in the guts. The way they defended stoppage, they didn't change anything, and it didn't keep on top of how their wingers were playing. The Saints, who I thought Mason Wood and Darcy Wilson were they just had acres of space. So it's. Hopefully, Ollie and Akers seem to be pretty on the ball with that stuff. So hopefully they can keep him under wraps.
Well said. You worked on this game. Yeah. So then, I mean, we obviously both worked on the game, and I think we both had a pretty good insight on actually watching this game. And as I said, I think I've watched a few Saints games, and the reason why I completely agree with Wilson is because he is my opposition watch.
Yeah.
He was the first player that I wrote down. I'm like, he was a star last week. He doesn't look like a first year player, and he obviously got 25 touches, I believe. I think it was 25. Yeah, so 25 touches, 2 goals, 3.
Yeah.
That's that's nuts as well. So seeing that, I thought he was absolutely fantastic. But I guess to name another opposition watch, because we do have the same player, I'll probably name Jack Steele. He has been quite solid this year. I don't really want to give him too much credit, because I don't think as a midfielder, I think he's kind of gone backwards just a little bit the past few years. And I think a lot of people have been saying he's been a lot better this year, but I don't really see it. I think he's been solid, a little bit better, but he hasn't been back to his form from a few years ago. So, I think he will be my opposition watch, but it's a bit of a cheaper one, because obviously my main one was Darcy Wilson. But I guess the question, Daff, before we move on to the forward line, is obviously with Liam Stocker. So he has been tagged in the past few weeks. I think it started around 17. That was when kind of Ross Lyon kind of experimented him as a tagger. Do you think he tags this week? And if so, who do you think he will tag?
He's not tagging this week. If Ross the boss is being serious, he's not tagging any of our mids. I don't think he can roll with Walsh. I don't think he can roll with Cripps. I don't know. He played a really good game actually last week on Stewart. And the funny fact with Stewart is every game he's been tagged in, they have lost.
Mm-hmm.
0-7. So if we end up playing Geelong in the final, and I don't see Chincotta on Stewart, whether he's in the middle, up forward, in the ruck, half back, I don't give a shit. Like that's in terms of if any team plays Geelong and they do not put time into Tom Stewart, they are dumb. The proof is in the pudding, and clearly St Kilda knew that. So that's being proactive rather than being reactive and chucking Stocker on him at half time. So yeah, Stocker's an interesting one. He might try to tag Walsh. I don't know. He might, he might. I don't know if he wants to continue doing that, but I can see him playing down back as well. Yeah, no, I have not much else to say.
Is there a potential half forward down there that you reckon he could go to? Probably not.
Not tag, but he probably just pick up he could go on Owies or he's a big boy, so Owies usually kind of outmuscles his opponents when he's on. So, that's probably a decent matchup if he wants to play on him. But yeah, other than that, I don't have much to say on the L Stocker case.
Yep. Well, I'm looking at I guess the height difference, and he's obviously 184 centimeters, and I'm just thinking like, who could he tag in the mid? Oh, who's been really good? Oh, yeah, Paddy Cripps has been pretty good this year, actually. I reckon Liam's on the gripper. But looking at the height, 195 centimeters.
Yeah,
So I'm sorry, but if Liam Stocker goes to Paddy Cripps,
they're in
happy
trouble.
days. I
Yeah.
reckon we'll get a 50 disposal game from Paddy Cripps this week at Marvel Stadium. Once again, I hope that doesn't come back to bite me in the butt. But so, Daf, I guess we'll move on to our forward line opposition watch. And there's been a few players that have actually impressed down there for the forward line. And then obviously with Max King not playing, I don't think he'll be at the Saints next year, just quietly. I don't think there's really a role for him this next year yet. Yep, complete. Well, I mean, I think like a guy, I mean, my opposition watch, I think he's completely covered that role. And I think he is executing a little bit better than what Max King can ever do. Just quietly, I don't really want to shit on Max King. He's not even playing this week, but I don't think there's a role there if they really want to be serious with this forward line.
Yeah.
Wow. This has turned into a buddy Max. I'm not even trying to shit on him, but I just think there's other clubs that will cry out for Max King, and I think he will be suited at the other clubs. And I had to say it, even like a Collingwood, even if they had the pay packet. I don't know. But your forward line opposition watch for the Saints this week, who have you got?
Yeah, Max King's an interesting one. I know he hasn't been superb the last few years, but has he had a full preseason at it? He's 7'2". Like you can't, he hasn't had a full preseason the last 2 years. So
2022, he played
yeah,
majority of the year.
yeah, but 2023 and 4, it's 2 years better.
Yeah.
It's you got to have continuity with guys that big, and he's into it. I know he should be playing better, but the way the Saints play football, Patto, I don't think it's a forwards paradise. The way Ross the Boss rolls, they're not the highest scoring team. So up forward for me, I've got Cooper Sharman. I thought he was fantastic on the weekend. I think I don't know, he's one of those guys. He's just kind of a random player, but he seems to come when they play well, he's on, and he's that kind of half forward role. Yeah, for me, it's Cooper Sharman.
Yep, no, exactly right. I think Cooper Sharman is mine as well. I mean, I'm having a look at my options from watch, and then obviously I wrote down Sharman, but even like a Tim Membry, who I think is really playing that the role down there as our key forward, alongside Caminiti as well, who can also roll through the ruck. But there's obviously a few options down there, even like a Jack Higgins who's playing probably taller than his size. And even Mitch Owens is another player who can be that versatile key forward. And that's another reason as to why I don't think Max King really fits into this side anymore. Because I think there's a few players down there that is really executing their role. And yeah, I don't know. I just think Max King for a few years now, and I think 2023 as well. I think he was playing a lot of the season, but we'll obviously move on from that, David Boyd. But Yeah, so let's now move on to our highly anticipated match predictions, if I can say the word right. And it's obviously bagger of the game, point of difference, and winner plus margin. So, Daffy boy, your match predictions for this week. Who have you got?
Yeah, it's a interesting one, but I'll start off. Best on, I can't go away from him. He's the best player to ever play in the Carlton jumper by the end of his career, and Patrick Cripps will be the best on ground for the Baggers at Marvel Stadium. Point of difference, this guy has to be in the team for the next 10 years because I like the way he goes about it. Off half back, he just I don't know. He just reminds me of someone, but I can't really put my finger on it. He's got a bit of toughness. He's had a ripper on the weekend, almost his best game for the club, and it's Lockie Cowan is the point of difference. I think he's got that something about him against this team and the Saints. I think the Saints at Marvel, they can kind of step over teams and put the foot down, but I think guys like that don't really take shit from guys like Higgins, who might be a bit chirpy, and those types of players that I don't know, they just roll around St Kilda like they're a top four side at points. I think especially when they're winning, they're just a little bit chirpy for my liking, Patto. But winner plus margin, I've got the Blues, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think I think they're gonna test us, the Saints, early especially. Carlton by 10 points at Marvel Stadium to lock up finals. I was going to say more, but there's no proof that we can put them away at the moment. So I've got 10 points.
Yeah, well, my bagger of the game, I've gone Paddy Cripps. He's the one player down there that you can't go anywhere else right now other than Paddy Cripps. And once again, I kind of hope that Liam Soccer goes straight to Paddy Cripps because he might be installed for another 50 disposal. I'm not sure why I'm saying another 50 disposal game. He hasn't gotten 50 before, but who knows? He might break his own record and get 50 disposals this week at Marvel Stadium. Point of difference, Jackson Binns.
Yes.
I think, I mean, he's obviously in the best 22. He's obviously in my 22. Is he your sub? He's your sub, isn't he?
Yes, he is my sub.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, once again, he could also be a point of difference if he does come on as a sub. He could be a big point of difference come this Sunday. Now, my winner plus margin, I don't know why, but I've got the Blues as well. I would love to know how many times that we've tipped against Carlton and how many times we've won. Because I reckon just a few, like most of the time when we tip against them, they usually end up winning.
So, I reckon we've tipped Carlton 23 times out of 24.
Yep.
I reckon last week was the only time I've tipped against us.
Yeah.
I didn't tip against us against the Swans. I don't think we both did. I think we found a way. We both said we weren't going to do it on the review of whatever game was before. And then we got to the end of the video and we were kind of pumping our own tires up, and then and then we ended up tipping us to win. So yeah.
I wonder if we tipped us against Brisbane.
I think we did.
Did we? Fuck, we're stupid, aren't we?
Well,
I mean, we obviously won, but like,
I think
yeah,
I think we did.
Yeah, interesting. But yeah, I've gone the Baggers by 19 points.
Yeah, I think
it's that margin where you're like, oh, something can happen that last 5 minutes. So I probably want it to be a blowout, but I think the Saints will be well and truly up for it. I don't think they have anything to play for, but they kind of do in a sense of their own club. They want to, because they've been playing some pretty good football the past few weeks, and they want to end the season well and head and try and use this form heading into season 2025. But I don't know. I just think I'm looking at that and I'm like, 19 points. It's obviously a very close-ish margin. Probably would want it a little bit more than that. Let's hope it's not an absolute thriller like round 23, 2022 against the Pies. But yeah, I've gone the Blue Baggers by 19 points. But Daff, before we wrap up our potentially, let's hope it's not, but potentially, I mean, it will be our last preview for the home and away season. But is there anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
Yeah, it's in our own hands, and we've had a lot of in our own hands in the last few years. I know last year we did well. But years prior, whenever it was in our hands, we let it slip. So I think it's another maturing phase for this team to just be able to play like, not be great for 6, 7 weeks, but not let it completely slip out of our hands. So let's just get a win this week. And I'm actually quite happy they're in form, the Saints, because I think it actually gives us a good kind of rehearsal if we were to play finals this year. You don't want to be playing a North and just winning by 5 goals and it's a shit game. I'd rather be up for the challenge, and then you go, fuck, we've just beat a really good side, a good side in good form. You want to have that mental kind of confidence when you get into finals that you can battle against a team who's up for the fight, because every final, as we showed last year, Sydney and Melbourne were up for the fight in both finals, and we just edged them out in the arm wrestle. But that's what it comes down to in finals. It doesn't matter who we play. Brisbane, could be Hawthorn. It's an interesting one. Quick question: who would you rather? Would you rather Brisbane at the Gabba, or would you rather Hawthorn at the G?
I probably would rather Hawthorn at the G quietly, but they are the most informed team at the moment. We know how to beat the Lions at the Gabba. So
Yeah, I just feel like I spoke to a colleague today about it, and he goes, "Do we want to play the Hawks after 3 weeks ago?" But that situation was different.
different, hell of a lot different.
Heading into a finals, we've got the experience. They might be in the better form, but how many weeks can you last at that form? And you're playing against a team who's done it last year. We've done it. We'll be out the G, home crowd. I know we can get the job. I'll be confident enough to get the job done in Brisbane, but it's just that, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's like, it's like, we made finals. We've got to play interstate. It's like, against a team who has been pretty good at the back end of the year. I know they struggled on the weekend. Maybe that's the crack showing, but let's just make the fucking thing first, Patto.
I'm just having a look at the ladder as well. So we're
Yeah.
obviously tied with points with the Dogs and the Hawks, and obviously Fremantle just behind us with obviously their draw. So they're on 50 points. Collingwood are 48, and there's still people saying that they can somehow make the 8. What? So they will get up 10%, but also we probably have to get smashed for them to have any sort of percentage.
Yeah, I think it's 3. I think we've got to lose by over 200, and they've got to win by like some certain amount. So
because when we lost to Hawthorn, they went up 7%.
Yeah.
So so I think it's like something like you kind of look at that and you're like, well, it's obviously a
they've got to
chance.
win.
But they're playing in Melbourne.
Yeah. They're not. They're not going to make the 8. They can't.
Yeah.
They can't, mate. It's impossible. It's 1%. It's probably under 1% chance they make it, which is fantastic.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's one of those teams. He's the only team that is like can make that 1% into 100%. I don't know, but I mean, I think there's absolutely no chance. But once again, if they smash the Demons by 149 points and they somehow kick us out of the 8, could you just imagine that? God. But yeah, and I mean also Fremantle. They're obviously playing Port the last round. Hawthorn are playing North Melbourne, I believe. North Melbourne down at Tassie, and the Western Bulldogs are playing the Giants. So there's a few.
The Giants beat the Dogs. We win. We go above the Dogs. We play Hawthorn.
Yeah.
Because Hawthorn won't lose that game, I don't think.
No.
Geelong won't lose to fucking West Coast. It'd have to be a massive upset. But, and then who cares about Freo? We just got to get the job done. I don't want to be watching that game. I want to be at the bar at platform 28 for a big win, have a few beers, and watch a dead rubber at 6:10 against Freo versus Point. Imagine the crowd there. Like, they'll be rocking up to the game, Freo fans, checking the score of our game. Imagine if we win. Imagine if we're up by 50 and they show up going, we can't even make the 8. But I think they can they make it? They can make it if the Dogs lose.
Yeah, so they can make it if the Dogs, Hawks, or us lose.
Yeah.
And also if the Lions lose, but they need to cover a hell of a lot of percentage. But I don't think Brisbane will
lose. Be zeros. Yeah.
I don't think the Lions will lose to the Dons at the Gabba. But yeah, so Dogs, Hawthorn, and Carlton are all equal.
Yeah.
2 points, and then Fremantle are on 50. So they can go above all of us because they obviously have the draw.
Yeah.
But I think out of all those three, I think Western Bulldogs is probably the best chance to drop out. But also, Fremantle playing against Port Adelaide, and if Giants beat the Dogs, they go above Port Adelaide for a home qualifying final.
Yes.
And
So
that means Port Adelaide drop third, and they probably back. They want another they want to have a qualifying final. So there's a hell of a lot riding on those few games before Carlton's.
That's the good thing. So if we lose, we've somehow got to back Port Adelaide in to win that game because they'll be playing for something like you said. Because they haven't had a home qualifying since probably 2020. Did they have a home quali? Probably.
Yeah, maybe
because they had a home. Because they had a home. Yeah, 2021. No, 2020 when they lost to.
2021 was.
2021
was the last time that they had a.
Yeah, so there you go. So then that's important. That's crucial. But I think, oh God, well the Giants, if they win by enough, it could be up to percentage. So it's going to be a cracking last day. I'll tell you what, that Friday and Saturday games are snooze fest, but Sunday will be a ripping day of footy with the 12:30 start.
Yeah, exactly right. It's good that they've actually done that.
Yeah, why don't they do that every week?
Why they don't do it more? Exactly right. I don't know why they don't do it more.
And the games that start at the same time, like how they start Saturday 1:10 and then they go 1:45. Both games at 1:45 now.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Last few weeks. So why isn't one at 1:10 just stagger it? The decisions made by the AFL this year are just absolutely baffling me at the moment.
It's actually funny because now I'm looking at the last round. Like the last round, the times are all different. So obviously the Cats and the Eagles 1:45. Richmond and Gold Coast Suns at 2:10. The last time that happened was, I think it was like one round through the year that it happened. But I mean, especially on Sunday with them having the 3 games, I think you have to have a 12:30 start because that's a good time.
Yeah,
and then
it's good.
3:20, and they don't. I mean, like especially with us who like obviously work in the industry, so we don't want them to overlap. And then obviously, I mean, I'm working on the games, and that means I can do all 3 at once. But if they overlap, I can't. So it's like it's just tricky, and I don't know why they don't do that. So heading into the next year, hopefully they can kind of look at this last round, see the amount of viewership that they have through the rounds on the TV, and then be like, well, okay, well when they don't overlap, we actually get more viewers, and it's like a half an hour, 45 minute.
Yeah.
Like it's not a big difference. So I just think that's obviously saying that they need to look at heading into 2025. There's a hell of a lot of changes I'm hearing over the obviously with the deals and stuff heading into next year. There's big changes happening, which is very promising. But David Boyd, I mean, I know that I've already asked it, but is there anything else you want to touch on before we wrap it up?
Just fucking win. 3 words, just fucking win, and then we'll be 14-9, and we'll have a better record than last year.
Yeah.
So, Brisbane at the Gabba. Brisbane at the Gabba. Bring them on. I say, bring anyone on. I'm here. That's my mentality. That's gonna be the slogan. But this is gonna be my personal slogan for the rest of the year. Bring them on, whether it's Sydney, Port Adelaide, Giants, Geelong, Brisbane, West Coast, Hawthorn, Fremantle, if they somehow make it. Bring them on, Patto.
Who knows, mate? We could even go up to 4th, as I've mentioned to you a few times. I know it's an absolute joke, but the only way we can come to 4 is go to 4th is if the Cats lose to the Eagles, which is a very high chance of happening. The Lions losing to the Dogs, which is also a very high chance of happening. So I don't think we're any chance of making the top 4, but there's a mathematical chance. And we love using that in the AFL world. So I don't think there's any chance. I think we're absolutely ruling that out. Let's just fucking make the 8 first, David Boy, as you've said many times. But yeah, it's obviously a very, very exciting last round, and I'm sure the AFL will be stoked with this last round. But to every single blue bagger out there, and even if you're an AFL supporter or even a sports supporter in general, and you want to try and get into AFL, make sure to subscribe to our channel if you do enjoy it. We do upload 2 episodes a week. And then obviously heading into the off season, we'll try and do a little bit more content over the off season as well. In terms of trade talk, there's a lot of things that we have to obviously speak about. We haven't even had time to speak about it tonight. Yeah. There obviously is a lot of conversation going to that. But Make sure to subscribe on YouTube. It doesn't cost anything if you do enjoy our content, but also on our podcast platforms, make sure to get around Spotify, Apple Music. There's a few others there, definitely, but make sure to also get around our social platforms as well, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all those. Make sure to follow us on all those platforms. But to you, Daffy boy, and to every single blue bagger out there, the baggers!